Japan is advancing blockchain-based decentralized identity. They may be using the same technology as payments, it turns out. It does make one question whether this is the XRP ledger. In this video, I'll show you what we currently know. Additionally, some fresh details on the ETFs are emerging. What is the future of the SEC? This is a complete upgrade. Before we get into all of this exciting news, let's take a moment to explore. According to Bill Morgan, the number of wallets containing at least 10,000 XRP has reached an all-time high. One of these wallets are you? Can your life be changed by 10,000 XRP? I really think so, but let's talk about the news from Japan because, wow. Okay, so according to Yuto, a new identity verification protocol with revolutionary potential was presented to the Blockchain Special Committee of the Bank of Japan. Although specifics are not available, it is intended to be decentralized and run on the same technology as payments. You don't say. Which is the most frequently discussed? Japanese blockchain infrastructures. Is the XRP ledger? I've showed you every detail, of course, but let's examine the true significance of this post. The Bank of Japan Special Committee is mentioned in the post. Is taking place? Several blockchain-based decentralized identity initiatives are currently being advanced by Japan's top banks and regulators. One such initiative involves a partnership with three of the country's biggest banks and significant tech companies to develop decentralized identity systems that facilitate safe user-owned digital credentials. These technologies greatly improve the security and efficiency of identity verification for online and financial services by allowing people to manage their personal data, give their approval, and share it when necessary. The country's dedication to adopting safe digital transformation is demonstrated by progressive legislative actions like employing blockchain-based solutions and strengthening identification criteria for remote bank account opening. If the Bank of Japan's proposal leverages DLT for both payment and identity, how could this help the XRP ledger's institutional backing for interoperability? It also certifies distributed ledger networks for vital financial infrastructure. SBI Holdings, a Ripple partner and major force in the digital banking and identity services market, is one of Ripple's many strong ties in Japan. RippleNet and the XRP ledger tech stack frequently benefit from broader usage of decentralized solutions. Rumors and industry conjecture indicate that Ripple wants to combine identification, compliance, and payments under a single blockchain by using XRP ledger for compliance and payments. As a neutral settlement asset, the XRP ledger stands to gain from developer experimentation, institutional interests, and potentially direct utility if integrated and standardized for quick compliance settlements. If Japanese banks embrace DLT identity solutions, the XRP ledger will also benefit from interoperability with payment and protocols. Let me explain why the XRP ledger would be ideal for this. The first thing that comes to me when I hear this is the XRP ledger. Through two significant revisions, XLS 40 decentralized identity and XLS 70 credentials, Ripple and the XRP ledger now support a complex decentralized ID that is the DID framework to enable. Together, these characteristics create a strong identification layer that complies with standards and connects to the internet on the XRP ledger. Cross-chain interoperability is supported by the DID architecture. To give you a better idea of what's going on, the XLS 40D amendment for decentralized identification was formally activated on October 30, 2024, following ratification by more than 85% of validators. By adding self-sovereign identification, or SSI, capabilities to the XRP ledger, this modification enables institutions and users to control their digital identities independently of centralized authority. The on-chain DID object and the W3C compliant DID standard are the main architectural elements here. Every DID is documented as an entry in the on-chain ledger that points to the DID document, which includes information and public keys for validation. By enabling lightweight key-only identity representatives for straightforward authentication and mutually linking a DID document on and its on a ledger reference, the Sockspell bidirectional pointer system prevents identity faking. The XRP ledger is prepared for this, as you can see. When you begin discussing what Japan is doing here, I would like to know if there is another blockchain that isn't the XRP ledger. or Ripple that has these kinds of ties to the Bank of Japan and the leading Japanese institutions. You begin to wonder what else they might be discussing. Regarding the global unified ledger, you may be wondering if Ripple is indeed the glue holding everything together. The US and the UK are working on a transatlantic blockchain alliance. Says Rathikonaman. Fascinating. That's nice, my man. Okay, now let's change direction. I want to talk about a few more things today. Let us play these more than 150 ETFs for digital assets that are awaiting clearance. Now let's get started. About 35 different assets have been filed for, you know. In other words, some of them are inverted, while some are leveraged. You can name it there. To start these activities, the issuers are filing, but the government is shut down, as you said. Therefore, while the government remains closed, I don't think anything new will hit the market. That's what I expect right now. Technically, if the SEC doesn't stop you within 75 days, we can dig into the specifics if we really want to, so I suppose anything might happen. However, the new regulations essentially allow you to launch the product within 75 days after filing if the SEC approves of it or doesn't object. In all likelihood, only about 9 assets that satisfy these new generic listing requirements for conventional spot products will be approved by the end of 2025. However, there are alternative methods to circumvent this and introduce these fictitious products that resemble spot or leverage, or employ derivatives and similar strategies to offer exposure within the ETF wrapper. However, as you stated, I don't believe that any of those initiatives will likely be implemented while the government. Do you believe that given the recent rise of publicly listed digital asset treasury companies, which are now somewhat in the spotlight and offer exposure through these DATs, there will be a little less excitement and anticipation surrounding the ETFs when they eventually go live? These ETFs have historically had a significant impact on the crypto markets and have seen incredible inflows. Yes, I do have some ideas about this, don't I? The lengthy tail of assets, as I previously stated, more than 30 assets are submitted for ETFs. Some, like Solana and XRP and other Bitcoin and Ethereum goods, have more than 20 registrations associated with them. In my opinion, the longer tail of assets, specifically digital currencies, are unlikely to attract much attention. Launching the 47th largest digital asset in an ETF wrapper does not guarantee that it will become popular just because it has an ETF. You see, if you look at the Bitcoin ETF, they did so well in part because there was so much pent-up demand that Bitcoin was booming when they started. Like everyone was anticipating it when it launched in early January. Money came pouring in. In fact, it was kind of a sell the news event at first, but in the long run, the space benefited and money continued to stream in. Ethereum is the reverse. Due to market dumps, Ethereum ETS saw net outflows over the first 5 months of its existence. During the summer, demand wasn't really high. The narratives were unclear because it had happened so soon after the Bitcoin ETF's inception. However, it took off once Trump was elected, and now it's just another way for folks, especially TradFi types, to play the space. Therefore, I believe that these other investments could experience the similar outcome. Thus, I believe in Solana and XRP. We are aware that there is a backlog of demand there. Okay, a lot of ideas spring to mind here rather quickly. Let's start with Bitcoin then. Thank you for viewing. Watch the video, make sure you're subscribed, like it, share it, or do anything else you want.